Okay, welcome to today's speaking test. I will be your examiner for today. So let's get started with part one first. So for part one, you'll be asked questions and please answer as you listen, okay? So the first question is relating to the topic of praising. So have you achieved anything recently?
Yes, absolutely. Recently, I have completed one of my personal goals, which is finishing a Chinese course. I would say that it wasn't easy at all for me because I had to balance it with my schoolwork. However, in the end, I still managed to pass the course with flying colors.
So how do you feel when you're praised?
Oh, when someone praises me, I often feel really proud of myself, yeah. And it's like a little pat on my back that reminds me my efforts are paying off. And however, I try not to let compliments go to my head because being humble is really important.
So how often do you praise others?
I would say that I praise others on a daily basis. Whether it's just, like complimenting a friend's outfit or appreciating their hard work. I believe that giving other compliments can really make their day.
So do you think that parents should praise their children more often?
Yes, absolutely. I think praises from parents can help children build their confidence and self-esteem. However, I think parents' praises should be based on practical factors because if children are praised really often, they might fear failure and, take things for granted.
Okay, that's the end of part one. Now let's move on to part two. So for part two, you'll be given a topic and then you have 1 minute to prepare and then you have 2 minutes to present. So give you 1 minute first. So here's your topic and your notes. And here's a pen if you would want to make some notes. So you have 1 minute for this. Okay, time's up. So now you have 2 minutes to talk about the ideas. So don't worry if I stop you. So you can begin right now.
So upon hearing this question, I immediately think of the strict school dress code rule at my school. And I know the reason behind this rule is to promote the equality and discipline among students. However, I think that there are other ways to make students feel comfortable without forcing them to wear uniform every day. So there are several reasons why I dislike this rule. The first reason is that forcing students to wear uniform means students cannot show their individuality and personal style. Some of my students said that they love fashion and they want to express their individuality through clothes. However, it's impossible because they have to follow the rule. Another main reason is that uniform is not always practical. The material is sometimes too thick, especially in the hot summer months. And the uniform, which are meant to create the equality among students, but some schools make it become unpractical, and students are not comfortable when wearing it. So if I have the power to change this rule, I would let students wear casual clothes at least once or twice a week, so that they can both, express their creativity through fashion, create a serious learning environment.
Okay, that's 2 minutes. Thank you for that. Okay, that's the end of part two. So now let's move on to part three. So do you know anyone who has broken the law and how did they do it?
To be honest, I don't really know any serious lawbreaker, but I do know one of my friends, he violated the rule when running the red line. And he said that, but he didn't do it intentionally. He was rushing to the exam at school. And after that situation, he said that he has learned a lesson that, rushing, saving a minute isn't worth risking his life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when is it okay to break the rules?
I think rules are meant to maintain the order. However, there are several situations when people can't, violating the rule is acceptable. For example, when you drive a person who are in emergency situation to the hospital, or when the purpose of violating the rule is to prevent harm.
So how are people punished when parked at a wrong spot?
When parking at the wrong place, people can be punished in several ways. Most of the time, they will be fined maybe money or get their vehicles locked. Or in some countries, parking at the wrong place can have their, point from driving license deducted.
Mm-hmm. So what rules should children follow at home?
I think there are a host of rules that children should follow at home. For example, they should respect their elderly people, parents, grandparents. It's also essential for children to be aware of their responsibility, like be aware of their schoolwork, do the homework, and do their personal things at home.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so coming back, are the rules at school good or bad in your opinion?
I think some schools have both good and bad rules. But most of the rules at school are well-intentional, and they are meant to maintain the discipline, equality among students. However, there are still some rules that I said in the part 2. For example, the strict uniform rule. It can somehow limit students' creativity.
Mm-hmm. And finally, what are some rules that students should follow at school?
I think there are some essential rules that students must follow at school, such as respecting teachers and their peers. Other important rule is not cheating or copying in exams. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's the end of part 3, and that's the end of the speaking test. Thank you so much. Thank you for the speaking. Okay, give you some of the comments that I think about your speaking performance today. So overall, I think you did quite well. But let's go into a bit of details of the things that you did well and some things that I think you can change a little bit to improve your speaking. So let's start with fluency first. I would say that you had really good fluency throughout. You tried to maintain the flow of conversation quite well. Một cái nữa em làm khá là tốt đó chính là việc em cố gắng expand cái câu trả lời của mình ở mỗi phần. And make it somewhat meaningful. Là kiểu mỗi cái phần expansion thì nó make sense in the coherence part of the fluency. There are some hesitations happening throughout, right? Which is normal. But có một số chỗ hơi hesitate một chút về maybe it's content. Some of it is content, như là ở trong phần 3. Tuy nhiên ở trong phần part 1 thì some language related hesitation as well, which could be tweaked a little bit more. Liên quan đến một cái nữa liên quan đến fluency là there are some self-corrections happening, right? Kiểu ví dụ em nói hơi bị lệch một chút em phải chỉnh lại, right? Which affects your fluency a little bit there. So for fluency, I would say that you are at around a 7 or an 8. I think that cái việc em reduce lại một số cái language related hesitation would really help to boost your score here a bit more. And to reduce một số cái liên quan đến self-correction throughout as well. In terms of your vocabulary, your lexical resource, I would say that you did very well with this. Có rất nhiều các cái idiomatic expressions, ví dụ như là kiểu a pat on my back, or kiểu go over my head, or những cái từ như kiểu self-esteem, equality, discipline, individuality, where intention. There's many highlights in terms of your vocab use here. I would say that that's a comfortable 8 in terms of your vocabulary. So I would say that to improve it, maybe there's some repetition sometimes of the words that you use. Ví dụ như từ individuality, there's a repetition twice in the same answer. So might want to tweak that a little bit. In terms of your grammar, I think that most of the time you really paid attention to your grammar. Đa số là em khá để ý đến việc là em chia ngữ pháp các thứ như nào. Pretty much error free. I would say that to boost your score, maybe focus more on the range. I would like to see more conditionals. I think that you can use inversions. I think that you can use more relative clause. You did use it, but I think you can push it a bit more. Make more subordinates using because or các cái variations of cause and effect sentences, right? I think that range is something that you can push a bit more here to boost your grammar score. Your pronunciation, I would say that it's really, really strong in terms of cái việc phát âm từ, trọng âm một từ quite well. Cái tone also flow quite well. I think that one thing that I think you can push a bit more is maybe word stress and intonation. Where cái việc em nói có thể there's more rhythm to the way that you speak. Ví dụ như là có một số chỗ em có thể nhấn mạnh hơn là I think that school rules are meant to emphasize equality and discipline. However, I think that there's more flow to the way that you speak, in the way of intonation and word stress, can push that a bit more. Overall, I think you've done quite well. I think this is a solid 7.5 in speaking, and I think you can push it up to an 8. You tweak it a little bit in terms of your speaking. So yeah, great job.